In this video, I wanted to show you guys how to use lookup, how to look up a value whenever you have multiple attributes to match to get a unique solution. Now, typically in any type of looking up, a lot of people are used to using VLOOKUP. But one of the limitations of using VLOOKUP is, if you know, is it asks for three arguments. First being the argument that you're trying to look for, which is, let's say, this. And then it asks you for the table array that you want your values to be found. So for example, let's say this is the table that we picked. And then the third argument is the column index from the table array that you selected. Which column do you want the values to be returned from? In our case, let's say this is our column that we want the values to be returned from. So this is going to be our first column, 1, 2, 3. So your column index would be 3. And then you're going to say exact match, depending on whatever you're trying to achieve. I usually just select exact match. And then it'll return a value for you. However, one thing you will know about this table is that you have one attribute here, another there. And also you have another attribute that we have to match, which is the, let's say, on the column on this row. And you will see that this attributes here, if I highlight it, it's in multiple different positions. And then you go down, you have a lot of these. So if you use just VLOOKUP, it will not result in a unique solution for you. And that's when you will need to use, depending on what type of database you're using, especially usually on company databases or bigger databases, you might need to use this type of looking up method. So to do that, we're going to be using a function called match and index in combination to achieve what we're trying to do here. I'm going to be starting with match function. Usually match function returns a row number depending on the value that you're looking for. Let me show you what I mean. If you type match and then it asks you for a lookup value, meaning what are you looking for? Kind of similar to the VLOOKUP. So where we're going to be doing something different is here. We're going to say the first attributes, and then we're going to use an n%, and then we're going to say the second attributes, and then we're going to say n% again, and then we're going to say the D3. That's our third argument here, or third attributes here. And then we're going to finally select the column number, and that's all that we have 4 attributes that we're going to be looking to match the unique solution. Now let me explain what I did here. Using the n%, you're basically creating a different or new string that combines all 4 of these and creates a separate or a new string that we're going to be using to look up. In general, if one of the other ways you probably could have done is adding a column here and then combine all this using this n% sign and do the same thing on your data repository and then look up that way. So you will be able to use VLOOKUP. However, in most cases, whenever you have a dedicated big database, you really don't want to add or subtract any column without everybody else knowing, because somebody else might be doing some sort of query on known column or row numbers that you may mess up. So you really don't want to add or subtract any column or row without everybody else knowing it. So this is the one way where you could do without messing up everybody else's query. Let me show you really quickly what happens if I remove this match and what this actually yields. As you can see, it combined this, and then the top. Of course, it converted it into a number. You can get around this, but we really don't need to do this. So we're going to just leave it as this. And then I'm going to put this match back on. I just wanted to show you guys what it looks like without the function. And then it's going to ask you for a lookup array. So we're going to go back to data repository, the table that we want to pull the data from. And we're going to say the first, which is the unit. And then we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to hit F4 to lock in, and then %. And then the second one, which is the cost center coefficient attribute. And then I'm going to hit F4 to lock everything, and then % again. And then the third attribute, F4, %, and then another one that we had was the month. So the D, F4, and lock it in. That's all 4 attributes that we're going to be looking against. And then we're going to select, if you notice here, it's 1, 0, and -1. But in our case, we're going to say 0 because we want an exact match. And then you hit Tab and close parenthesis. Now you'll see it returned 3. I mean, ignore the $sign here because these values are formatted for dollar values because that's eventually the number that we're getting. But I just wanted to show you what it returns when you only use match function, which is 3, which is the row number that we're going after, that meets all 4 of these attributes. Now we're going to go back and start adding the index function. Usually, index function asks for 3 arguments as well. And usually, if you give an array and then give it a row number and a column number, it returns you the value that you're looking for within that array. Row, column, that's usually what it does. However, in this case, we're giving it the row number that we have calculated that meets these 4 attributes. Now, I'm going to add a comma in front of the match. And then I'm going to go to the left side of that comma because that's where we're going to be adding our array, which is the table. In our case, we're just going to select the column that we want our value to come from. And then we're going to be locking that. That's all you need to do for that array. And then we're going to say enter the third argument, which is the column number. Whenever you only have 1 column as an array over here for the first argument, you really don't have to put any column number, any arguments for the third one. It automatically recognizes the first column. But for simplicity's sake and for you to understand, I'm going to just say 1. And instead of hitting just enter, it's a best practice whenever you have some array function like this going on. It's a best practice to hit Control-Shift and then enter. And then it converts this function into an array function. And it is denoted by this squiggly parentheses. And that's how you guys will be able to find or look up values whenever you have multiple attributes that needed to be matched to find out unique values. I hope you learned something. Thank you.